and welcome to the show. Thanks very much for joining us again today. We're here today to talk about a subject that almost everyone is familiar with in today's economic climate. The subject is foreclosure. We have a very special guest with us today who is an expert on the subject of foreclosure, Mark Farley. He is a principal partner at First Equity Trustees, LLC, the parent company of sellfastusa.com. Mr. Farley calls himself a former bank attorney gone rogue. He worked as the principal foreclosure attorney for the entire southwest region of Chase Bank for 12 years. He has been called an expert witness in various class action lawsuits and has spoken to thousands of foreclosure defense attorneys nationwide, teaching them how to stop foreclosure and beat the banks. Mark has an unparalleled understanding of the foreclosure process, both from a legal standpoint and also from the perspective of the large banking institutions. Mr. Farley, welcome to the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So can you tell us what you're seeing out there in the foreclosure market? Are you spotting any sort of trends?
Well, if you're in the United States, the trend is that the foreclosures are still happening at a brisk pace as we speak here in the middle of 2012. Sometimes you'll see a statistic that says that it went down a fraction of a percent. Sometimes you see a statistic that it went up a fraction of a percent. But the bottom line is there are more and more foreclosures overall coming onto the market. And the reason is that we find that prices are still falling nationally. They may not be falling as quickly as they did from the period of, say 2006 to 2009, but you still have declining prices. And as homeowners realize maybe 6 or 8 months ago that they weren't underwater, they're finding now that they are, because the home values have gone down. And so it's the trend is that it's still going on. What we see also is the bank as they take back foreclosures, they're not putting them all back on the market. They're keeping some of them in their private coffers, so to speak, and that's called shadow inventory. In other words, if they foreclose on 1,000 properties, they might put 500 back on the market to resell them as a bank-owned foreclosure, and the other 500, frankly, they're keeping in their portfolio. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are some of the biggest insurers of these loans, and they're ending up with a lot of these foreclosures in their lap, and they're quickly becoming the nation's biggest landlord in that the properties that go to foreclosure, they're actually keeping them in their inventory, managing them, putting tenants in them, and gradually putting them on the market over the course of time. So we see people that are looking at their situation whereas they weren't upside down, as I say, 6 or 8 months ago, and as they realize their prices, the prices are falling, they become more and more candidates to, in some cases, allow it to walk away and go to foreclosure. In some cases, they're seeking other alternatives.
And we've all heard stories about homeowners, having hired companies that will take money up front and promise to do a loan modification or even stop foreclosure for owners, and ultimately never performed anything. Have you ever run into this from homeowners?
Well, yeah, many of the owners who sell their houses to our firm have had previous bad experiences from so-called foreclosure rescue companies. People will promise things and take money up front from customers. That homeowners are looking for solutions out there, and unfortunately, there's always a band of people out there to take advantage of that. We're different in that we're the buyer. We're investors. We purchase the properties, and we don't offer any type of service of any kind. We actually buy the properties outright from homeowners that are wanting to walk away from their property permanently. So we do a sales transaction with no promise, and so that's the difference. There are companies that do that. One of the things we see is homeowners are trying to seek other solutions as a possible avoidance to foreclosure. Unfortunately, many of those solutions aren't really don't have a high success rate. One of the solutions everybody's heard of is a short sale, and this is a vehicle that gives a homeowner some sort of a hope where they can sell the property short the total loan amount, where they sell it for less than what they owe. Yeah. Unfortunately, that process has a very high failure rate. It's depending on the part of the country, it's way less than 50%. Mm-hmm. I think I heard a statistic in Las Vegas, Nevada, where it was a 94% failure rate. And the reason short sales fail are several, but it's a combination of you get bad appraisals, where the bank's appraisers are coming in there and not giving a correct value. Yeah. Sometimes a buyer will enter into a contract to purchase a short sale, and it takes 90 or 120 days to close that to get the approval from the bank. And in the meantime, the property has become worth less than it was 90 days ago, and the buyers have remorse and the buyers walk away. And the last thing about short sales is of course, you have to provide a lot of private financial information. It's a loan application in reverse. You had to prove that you could afford the home when you got the loan originally, and now you have to prove that you can't afford to keep the house. And so they put a microscope up and make you provide tax returns and private information. So a short sale is an alternative that many people seek, but it has a high failure rate. The second biggest alternative we see people seeking is the loan modification. The lenders have been incentivized by the government to offer alternative solutions, and there's programs called, they have fancy acronyms, they call them HAFA and HAMP, and these loan modifications also have a very, very high failure rate, because in this case you have to provide your financials and prove that you can still afford the home, only at a lower price. And the third thing we see people using is bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is not a great alternative. It's basically a short-term bandage. If you think you can't afford the home, they file bankruptcy. It's just a delay. It may delay a foreclosure by 30, 60, or 90 days, but not everyone qualifies for a bankruptcy, and it's really the worst solution. So homeowners are limited into the things that they can, alternatives that they have nowadays.
All very valuable information. We very much appreciate that. So let's move on to maybe tell us a little bit more about what your company does.
Yeah, well, we are a consumer advocacy group and also an investment company, kind of rolled into one. We are buyers of property and buyers of notes. What we do is we purchase properties subject to the underlying defaulted mortgage. And what subject to means is that we leave the existing defaulted mortgages in place, and we purchase the property from the owner using a simple contract and an arm's length transaction. They get a HUD-1 closing statement at the end, and it's a simple purchase. And then what we do then as the new owner of the property is it is in our best interest to defend the mortgage. So we analyze each individual purchase depending on what the bank that the existing mortgage note is sitting with, and we formulate a strategy, a legal strategy, to leverage the banks in a way that's not available to most homeowners, and that we will conduct a forensic audit. The fact of the matter is, Kirsten, that 83% of home loans that were done between 2005 and 2009 had some sort of fraudulent activity, errors in them. You may have heard of robo-signing. That's been big in the news. And so, and in many cases, the foreclosing party is not even the holder in due course of the note, meaning that they don't have the right to foreclose, but they are doing it robotically. And you have these attorney mills and attorney offices that have become foreclosure mills. And so what we do is we interrupt the natural process, and we challenge the banks, and we leverage the situation, so it becomes so unappealing for them to foreclose, because they could be facing a huge legal problem. And alternatively, our ultimate goal then is to buy the note at a discount, and that's what we do. We buy the home from the homeowner first, and then we buy the note from the bank through a series of legal tactics, and ultimately for a discount. And that's what our company does. We are a for-profit company, and that's how we operate.
So how are you finding the bank's response to these legal tactics? Do they ever fight back, or so on and so forth?
Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. There's two types of foreclosure in the United States. There's a judicial foreclosure, which involves the court system. And those represent probably about 80% of all foreclosures. And in that case, the large banks, we deal with, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, the large players. will hire different law offices in different regions to handle the foreclosure process. And in some cases, the attorney's offices are highly motivated to just process as many foreclosures as they can, whether they're legal or they're illegal. Their job is to just push them through because they're making a lot of money right now. But in most of the cases that we find where we are challenging the note status or some other aspect of the loan, we have them dead to rights. So they try to fight back, but when you show up in court in front of the judge and you prove that the note does not belong to Bank of America, but rather some defunct out-of-business mortgage corporation that existed back in 2006, and the holder, Bank of America's attorney, does not have the series of assignments proving that they are now the beneficiary, it's hard to win there. And so we win way more often than we lose. Do they fight back? Yes, they try. Do we lose sometimes? Yes, we do. But we win way more often than we lose.
Thanks, Mark. Now, can you explain a little bit about the buying process? Let's say if someone were to sell their home to your firm?
Well, sure. It's pretty simple. We have foreclosure specialists on staff to speak to homeowners. The best way is to go to the website and make contact with us through there. That's at sellfastusa.com. And basically, you can fill out a pre-screen. We actually don't buy every property that we look at. We have to meet certain criteria. For example, we don't buy raw land. We don't buy multiplexes or apartment houses. We're interested in single-family homes. We usually like to see properties in a major metropolitan area. So you need to go to the website and see the exclusions and even fill out a simple pre-screen that we have available, which will tell you thumbs up or thumbs down if you qualify. Most people do qualify, but there are some exceptions. And then from there, you'll be assigned a personal counselor, and he or she will speak with you, answer all the detailed questions you may have. And if everything checks out and it looks like we're able to purchase your home, you fill out an information packet. You have to sign some papers. It's some of the purchase documents. They're sent to our mail processing department, and we acknowledge them when they arrive. And in about 10 days, we process the purchase internally. We pay all the escrow fees, all the closing costs. It's all handled internally with our own staff. And in about 2 weeks, the seller is able to walk away from the property. They get a HUD-1 closing statement and a check through closing, and then it becomes our property. It's a pretty simple process.
Well, Mark, thanks very much for joining us. Very informative, very optimistic. There's a lot of hope for a lot of people out there. Thanks very much for joining the program today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Mark Farley, House Counsel with Sell Fast USA. You can check him out at sellfastusa.com. Thanks very much for watching.